Hello, and happy Wednesday. Yes, gang, it is back again. It is time for some small biz talk on Wednesday morning. If this is your first time joining us, hello, my name is Sadie Uribe, and I'm the media producer for Los Angeles Regional SBDC. The SBDC is a national program with over 1,000 locations across the country, helping to stimulate economic growth through business advising and development. The LASBDC offers no-cost services through funding provided by the U.S. Small Business Administration, SBA, and from the California Office of the Small Business Advocate. It's your tax dollars at work. The Los Angeles Regional SBDC network operates 7 service locations throughout Los Angeles, Santa Barbara, and Ventura counties. Our services are also offered virtually. We are here to help. We empower small business owners by offering tailored solutions through personalized one-on-one business advising, cutting-edge workshops, and comprehensive programs, all provided at no cost. We are dedicating to supporting your entrepreneurial journey every step of the way. Lori, I'm excited for today. I'm not going to kid. Like I feel like happy joy giggles today.
I like Happy Joy. Hey, and Sadie, hey, I got a comment. So you said something at the beginning. I don't think I ever heard you say it, and I might have gotten it wrong. You have to listen to the recording. But I think you said something like, it's time for small biz talk for your Wednesday morning. It was like perfect. It fit the name. I just wanted to say that was a new rendition you did this morning, and it was on target. You're just getting so good at this intro. We need to go live on the big screens next. Okay.
That's next.
Hello. That's next. Hello and welcome to the show. I know it's a Wednesday morning and here we are and I know I say this every week, we have another great show. So first of all, let me get started with Lori's Corner. As you know, we're going to talk about in a minute, but before we do, let's talk about what's coming up on the next weeks. We got Diana coming back on. I got these return guests, which I really like. Diana was on before, talked about career planning and her company that she started not that long ago. It's been a couple years. She'll have to correct me on how many, but it's not been forever. Well, she just released a new book, Career with Intention. And I was talking with her about it. And not only is she going to come on and give us great advice about her own experiences in running her company, but she mentioned how many people think about self-publishing and how much she learned in her research process and how much she found that having some kind of even ebook is a great marketing advantage. And she wanted to share that with the audience because she said she learned so much that she had to do the research. She wanted to share it with others. So I'm really excited that she's going to come on and talk about a whole bunch of things. Then I originally had May 27th as Ask Lori Anything. You know, we had can we call it an accidental Ask Lori Anything? Well, I decided we'll have another Ask Lori Anything, okay? Because I don't like bringing in a guest at the late when they don't have the full marketing advantage. So whatever you guys want to talk about, you let me know. If not, I'll just ramble. You know, I'm very good at rambling. I think I specialize in it sometime. Speaking of rambling, no pun intended on the speaking, I'm on a roll today, aren't I? Well, let me get into my ramble for today. So, welcome back to Small Biz Talk. It's time for Lori's Corner. Today, I want to talk about something that's been on my mind a lot, and that is likes and dislikes. Yeah, let's talk about that. Nobody really talks about that so much. Let's talk about it. I feel, once again, Lori's opinion, I feel like we've gotten so used to letting other people's quick likes, dislikes, and comments guide our emotions and even business decisions. Someone posts an opinion, a bunch of people hit the button or type this, and suddenly it feels like truth, even though it's often just someone's emotion at that moment. There's no real research, no facts, no long-term proof behind it. It's just a feeling, and usually a faded feeling. We're running more on emotions and feelings than we ever have. Well, here's the part that worries me. We're starting, or been, making real business decisions based on those emotional whims. We let fear creep in because everybody's saying something and we must react without stopping to ask, is this actually true for me? So I've thought about this many times, but here's a quick example from this week. I met with this client, been in business for 20 years, successful. She's been a sole prop for over 20 years, zero problems. Okay, zero problems. Suddenly she's in a panic. She's convinced she has to form an LLC immediately because everybody's suing everybody. And you could see the angst in her face, the stress. And she told me a part-time employee that she had said he was suing her old employer, the employee's old employer, not her, but said, oh, I'm going to sue my old employer. And everywhere she looks, she said, people are saying, you have to protect yourself. Everybody's getting sued. And she just sat there. Yeah, everybody's getting sued. Everybody's getting sued. I listened to her, and then I asked two simple questions. Have you actually heard any of these people talk about what they won in court or what the settlement was? The look on her face was amazing. It's like stopped her in her tracks. She just stopped. She thought for a second and she said, no, with almost a bit of amazement at her own answer. I haven't heard one single person mention a settlement or court outcome. That pause was powerful. She realized she wasn't reacting to real events. She was reacting to a wave of emotional chatter and fear. Now, I'm not here to tell you whether you should or should not form an LLC. That's not what I'm doing here. Okay, that's not at all. That's a personal decision based on your own business and risk level. But what I am here to say is this. Maybe we all need to slow down and question how freely we're given our likes, dislikes, and opinions, and how quickly we're accepting other people's. Don't let someone else's emotional moment become the reason that you make a big business decision. Be more conscious about what you absorb and what you share. When we do that, we make clearer, calmer choices that are right for us, not right for the crowd. So the bottom line, a like button is not a fact checker. Let's give our opinions more thoughtfully and accept other opinions a little more carefully. We could all benefit from it. You got this? Think it through, stay grounded, and keep building smart. All right, let's jump into today's show. I'm so excited to have Kaiy back on the show. Kaiy is an entrepreneur and speaker who builds businesses centered around people, connection, and community. She is the founder of STEMS, Catering, Cheese, an experience company, Neighbors and Friends Cafe, and Neighbors and Friends The Kitchen, and No Neighbor Left Behind, a nonprofit initiative focused on feeding and supporting her community. Lots going on here, lots to talk about. What started as a simple cheese board turned into $1 million business and grew into something bigger than she ever planned. An ecosystem designed to take care of the people while creating real opportunity. Kaiy shares what it actually looks like to build something from the ground up. Not perfect, not easy, but real. She speaks on trusting yourself, starting before you feel ready, and creating opportunities for yourself and your community, even when there isn't a clear path in front of you. Her work is rooted in one belief. You don't have to choose between purpose and profit. You can build both. Kaiy, I love that. I just absolutely love that. That is so beautifully written. You know, guys, I was talking with Kaiy before the show. It has been, how long, Sadie? When was she on the show last?
2 years ago.
2 years ago. Yep, 2 years ago. And I was telling her that I couldn't remember the details, but I remembered that there was reasons she had to pivot. And now I know there's all this exciting stuff going on. And I felt as though she was a beautiful example of how to persevere and how life is messy. Life is messy, business is messy. And it's not if it's messy, it's what we do with that little mess in front of us that really matters. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. But before we do get into all the stuff of what happened afterwards, let's go back to that cheese board, Kay. Can we talk about the cheese board? How did it all begin? To help those that have not seen the first show or don't remember it, just like I don't. And by the way, Sadie is putting the link into the very first show because after you see this one, you might want to go back and do a catch up. So, Kay, how did it all start?
Yeah, so we started our catering company Stems March 2020. The goal wasn't actually to be a catering company. It was to do DIY classes for people for home, like home entertaining. So cooking classes, cheese board classes, wine classes. My mom worked in catering. My grandma was a floral designer. I worked in wine. That's where the name Stems came from. And it was really just a great way for us to work together. And my mom and grandma volunteer for everything. So especially when it comes to like throwing parties. So I was like, what if we actually turn that in and monetize that? And so that's how we planned on starting. And then everything shut down. And my grandma and my mom were like, we're going to take a break for the next 2 weeks. And I was like, we can't take a break. We just started. And I started doing virtual wine tastings, and people started to ask for pairings with the wine tasting. And we started to make little boxes. And from there, it just grew and grew and grew into a full-blown catering company. 2 years later, we decided that it was time to open a storefront. So we signed a lease. And 2 years after we signed the lease, we finally got open. And then from there, uh, the fires happened 2 months after we opened that. So it was another chance for us to pivot. And we quickly turned into a distribution center overnight. My sister lost her home. My manager's family lost their home. Her grandma lost her home. Her aunt lost her home, all of that. And we just started asking them, like, what do you need? And the number one thing was phone chargers. So we jumped on our community moms page and said, hey, let's love on our community. They need it right now. Can you bring these items down? And overnight, the whole entire cafe had just turned into a distribution center. And the name of the cafe is Neighbors and Friends. And so I feel like we really showed up for our neighbors and friends during that time. And we still continue to do community meals for anybody who may need it, whether it's a financial hardship or just a life hardship, because times are crazy and we know how long it's going to take to rebuild. And
Yes.
the people who were affected by fires, like specifically, need help, but it also created a ripple effect. And between that, ice raids, all of those things, the goal is just to love on our community as much as we can. And it's led us to our new location that we're also opening, hopefully in 9 days, if everything goes as planned. So.
Wow. Okay. Fascinating. So let's unpack that. I have to say the overarching question that I don't even have it well defined. So, okay, can I just throw you a very vague question at because this is what's on my mind. I've watched you progress, and even the part about during the fires, which I was heavily involved in that with the SBA loan. So I know firsthand the pain that people did and are still going through. And I cannot talk about the fires without sedating that. But what is it that has allowed you to continue, be profitable, be organized? Because all of these companies required really having processes in place. You can't fake distribution. You can't fake putting together boxes and sending them. You have to have a certain level of discipline, organization, and a certain level of business savvy to make sure you're profitable so you can keep going. Where did that knowledge come from? How are you managing when I find so many people can't seem to get finances in order and are just fretting trying to make something work? What is your secret?
Sebastian from the SBDC.
Ah, I do love Sebastian.
Um,
Yes.
yeah, I think, I think the number one thing is when you don't have answers, asking for help. And I think that's something that's really hard for people to do. I know for me, it was really hard when I started, but what I've learned over time is it truly isn't what you know, it's who you know. And when it comes to finances and things like that, Yes, you need to have things in order. But as a small business owner, as a woman business owner, as a Black business owner, there are already other obstacles that I have to face. So having somebody who's able to really help navigate, and that's been Sebastian. He checks in on me even when I don't know I need to be checked in on, has really helped. And having a really incredible bookkeeper who also
Yeah.
knows what the processes are. And working with CDFIs has been like a huge, huge way for us to grow, which is, different from traditional banking, which wasn't
Right.
really an option when we first started. And then when you open a location, you have to understand that to start, you're not going to be profitable. As much as we always want to be profitable, it takes time. So you need to make sure you have a runway for that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I've been talking about this a lot, and this brings up a question right after what you said, which I thank you. That was actually quite brilliant. And I think there's a lot of words of wisdom in it. Is finding what I call discernment, because there's a lot of people out there to give advice and opinions, but a lot of it shouldn't be taken. And you seem to have been able to find the discernment of when to follow advice and when not to. And you're nodding, so I'm not even going to say anymore. You get what I'm saying. I'm finding a really I'm finding people are having a difficult time with discernment and they're just following bad advice over the cliff. Please comment on that.
So yeah, that's probably a number one thing that I find in mentoring, that not everybody is your cup of tea, right? You have to know who to listen to and who not to listen to. And you have to really know yourself and your business. I hear so often, even as we're growing this, I hear it from different people that we're working with. Well, so and so said this. And my number one thing is, I don't care what so and so said. So and so doesn't own this business. I own this business. And so I have to know within my gut, like, this what works and what doesn't work. And sometimes I'm going to make bad decisions, but I have to fully be in that bad decision, right? I have to have been the one that made that decision.
Yeah.
And I've really surrounded myself with people who know what they're talking about on purpose. And they may not know everything, but they have good discernment too. They know when they don't know everything. And then they know how to guide me to the person that may have the answers. And I think that's like, if I could give any piece of advice to anybody that's starting a business, it's stop listening to the noise and
Yeah.
really find one or two strong mentors to help guide you, because that's all you need. And it may take you a while to find those mentors, but once you do, you're set. And I think for me, I have three people in my life that I focus on and I ask for advice in different places. I have my financial person from the SBDC. I have my marketing person that I work with from the WBC, both like funded, so I don't have to fund it. And then I have somebody who helps with overall business strategy, who also knows the people that I'm talking to when it comes to finances and marketing.
You put a good team together, and there's something you said that is very wise, and I'm going to paraphrase and probably get it a little bit incorrect. But you were saying that when you talk with your mentors, they are quick to point out when there's something they don't know. I think where you can sense it is so many people, what I phrase, they don't stay in their own lane. It's more of an
Hmm.
older expression. And one of my biggest issues is people don't stay in their own lane and they misguide the unknowingly entrepreneur from a CPA that's giving legal advice, even, but doesn't understand it. But it's like a fellow business owner is suddenly telling somebody else how to do something in a legal financial manner, knowing they don't know law and finance, they know their situation. And so I think that was a point of wisdom that you said that I didn't want to go without noticing on it. So kudos to you on recognizing that. Kudos to you to putting the team together. And if you look at it, you've got bookkeeping, so you've got the correct numbers, you've got somebody looking over the finances and helping with business strategy, and then the marketing to execute it. You've got the parameters that are really necessary to grow a solid foundation. And then, of course, it's it's
Yeah.
you all along. And speaking of it's you, I'm going to word this in a plain vanilla, not giving its full credit because I don't have the correct words, but I want you to add the flavor to it. It's about you. One of the things that I have noticed is at one point, you've got Kay that's very strong, knows what she's doing, and very business savvy, but you also got the Kay that's very connected to giving. I remember even on the first show talking about you acting as mentors to others. I can't remember enough about what it was specifically, but you've always been someone who was looking around you and wanted to make sure you provided insight and inspiration to others along the way. And I have to believe that that inherent trait of who you are has also helped in your business success. I got to believe that behavior, that characteristic, whatever you want it is, you've brought it all along with you all this time. It's also impacted the opportunities or something. I don't know. I'm making it up, but you see where I'm going with it. Let's talk about that inherent part of you. Where did that come from? Was that a family thing you learned from? So let's talk about where that got born in you, if I can say it that way. And how have you seen that influence your business success?
Yeah, I mean, I actually talk about this a lot, more actually to myself. And it kind of working with actually my marketing person from the WBC, we started to talk about how I got to where I was at. And I don't think I realized how impactful it's been being raised by four generations of women that are incredibly strong. Um, so my great great grandma came over here from Italy with all of her kids and all of that stuff. Then I had my great grandma who was a business owner when women were not business owners.
Wow. Yeah.
She was the breadwinner, and she was so strong and she did it for so long. One of the number one things that my great grandma said to me was, you can do all of this, but if you don't take care of your community, you won't have anything. And I remember just really leaning on that and then watching my grandma and my mom, who both heavily worked in community to the point of like giving all that they could. Um, and it's a very interesting kind of dynamic from the both of them. My great grandma had a business. My grandma worked specifically in community, and there was a little bit of an overlap, but not a huge amount. And so I remember growing up watching my grandma, who started the Giving Bank at Holy Family in South Pasadena, worked there for 30 years. She would give everything she had to people. Like, I remember getting in the van with her one day and somebody came up and she had her last $40, and it was somebody who just needed money and she gave them the money. And I have kind of this moment of, that's beautiful, but then what about you?
Right.
And I could see her pouring from an empty cup. Same with my mom. My mom tended to do the same thing. And so with this business, as that's part of the reason that I was like, we are starting a business, we are monetizing, but in that, when you come from a family where the goal is to give and take care of people, you can't take that out of it, right? And so it was very much learning, how do we merge the two? How do we make this so that people can be taken care of and we have purpose while also building generational wealth? And I think that that's, a lot of people stop right before the generational wealth kind of aspect of it. So I always just kind of wanted to make sure that the goal was that in the end. So as long as we take care of our community will take care of us. But in order to continue to take care, you need to create money, you need to create income. And that is how you really create the cycle of other people who are underserved being able to open their businesses, right? If I have generational wealth, I can now invest in the next generation. And so that's something that was really important to me as we grew this business. And that was the number one thing that I told my grandma, I told my mom, we're opening this business and it's not just for us, it is for our community. But to start, we really need to focus on creating systems. We need to focus on creating ways that we can be profitable while still giving back. So, what does that look like, and how do we create that? And I feel like the fires really allowed us to hone in on our social impact and figure out how to create this beautiful model where we're able to take care of our community while also having a profitable business. And so one of the things that we do in our cafe is any excess food, we use it in order to create meals for our community. So we
Okay.
have virtually no waste. And we create things like chicken pot pies and lasagnas and different like pasta bakes and things like that that people can pick up, and it comes from our excess food, and it's a circle, and it's yeah, it really comes from women in my being passed down how important it is to not only take care of your community, but also there's a way to do that while monetizing it.
I have to say, I'm a bit speechless because I found what you just said to be so beautiful and wise and also touched me in so many different ways. So before I go on to menu item stuff, I just have to comment on it. First, my brother always would talk about generational wealth and he wanted that for his daughter. And I never, ever really gave the emphasis of what he was trying to say because I didn't quite understand it fully. My brother's passed away many years now. But when you spoke of it, it was like I almost could say to him, "Oh, I get what you were saying now. I kind of understood that." But also, the more profound thing is I think that there is this delicate balance that so many struggle with, myself included, on how to give and not give to the point where you're taking away from yourself. And you identified the monetization, and there's a way to give. And your example of using the extra food to make meals to give away that you would have thrown out is just perfect. So I just commend you on not only doing it, but I commend you on being able to understand and communicate it to others in a way that you just did. I think that's phenomenal. So, what I'd like to do now is get into the physical logistics. So, walk us through, and let's start with the existing cafe so people understand, am I coming there to eat this or that? Am I drinking this? Let's go on a little mind tour with you, okay? So, walk us through the cafe. And if there's any website pictures or anything, tell Sadie and she'll pull it up and we'll look at it as well. But I wanted people to get an idea of what this looks like, what their experience is, what the food offering is. So take us with you to your cafe.
Yeah. So we have our cafe, which is based in Old Town. It's at 88 East Union, and the Instagram is We Are Neighbors and Friends. And there's tons of awesome pictures there. But the cafe is a community cafe. So the whole basis of Neighbors and Friends is we have a KPI that 85% of our products are sourced from our neighbors and our friends. And so it's really great to do everything from scratch, but when you do everything from your neighbors and friends, you actually get the best of the best quality, right?
Yeah.
And so I truly believe like there's one thing, and if you're really good at that one thing, to really hone in on it. And a lot of our neighbors and friends have done that. And so all of our bread comes from out of thin air. They only do bread, and it's one of the best breads in LA. So that's really exciting. We work with RC Provisions for all of our deli meat for the most part. And they are incredible as well. And all of our sauces, all of our hot sauces, they come from different places. El Cholito, Fire Season, which are women-owned, incredible brands. All of that great stuff. And so you're going to find a lot of sandwiches there. That's where you can get your cheese board. We have an incredible coffee program. We get all of our coffee from Picaresca, which is based out of Boyle Heights, who's also very focused on community. And it's just a really good place where if you want to feel like loved and taken care of, go in there. Nicole is our manager there, and she has just such a beautiful heart, and she just makes everybody feel so loved. I was actually talking about her with our new team at our new space about how we need her to come in and just teach people how to be happy and like positive and good energy. And she's so good at that. And I think it really shows through in the cafe. And we were rated one of the best restaurants in Pasadena. And that's really exciting as a cafe, because I don't even think we even thought we were in the running for anything
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that. But yeah, it's very just comfort food. That's
I
the
love it.
goal.
And Sadie, if you have any pictures you want to pull up, just feel free to share. And when you share it, I'll stop talking and let Kay go over anything. But if any visuals on this, please feel free to pull it up and share it. And I'll just stop and have Kay explain. Kay, I love what you just said, because one of the things that I'm a big proponent for is, oh, nope, I'm not even going to say that. Hold on, Kay, you take the stand. Tell us about the pictures we're looking at.
Yeah, so we have our bacon, egg, and cheese right there. Yeah, we're known for our sandwiches. We have incredible
Oh, wow,
sandwiches.
that's beautiful. Well, it makes sense because you've always been about the stems and the beauty and everything. That doesn't even look real, okay? That is
It's
too gorgeous to
real.
be real. Oh my
I
God,
had that
guys,
for
look at
breakfast
that.
this morning,
Oh,
so
that's a art piece right here, okay? Okay, I'm looking at an art piece. Oh my God.
But yeah, so much of, yeah, this is our sandwich pack. So you can go in and get a picnic pack, which is great we're right by the park. So if you want to do something like that, but we have graduation coming up. We just had Mother's Day, but we have Father's Day coming up, all of that good stuff. A great way to do a picnic, great for corporate lunches, all of that. This is actually our 90 days to opening, which we've been sharing on there for Neighbors and Friends Kitchen. And we're walking you through the 90 days that it takes for us to get open. I picked a random number and now I'm trying to stick to it, which is a little nerve-wracking. We're on day 9, so there's some updates that I need to do today, but we just walk through everything. And yeah, we had Carrie come out, who is incredible. And she's a New Yorker. And she says we have one of the best bacon, egg, and cheese sandwiches. And that means a lot coming from somebody who's from Brooklyn. So
And the
yeah,
place is beautiful. I mean, this is my first time seeing it. Remember, this was not all in existence, or I never saw it before. It is just gorgeous. It's everything is just picture perfect. You can tell, Kay, you have paid close attention to every single detail. It's
it's all about
guys,
the
is
details.
this not impressive? This is just totally impressive. Okay, I don't want to forget this. What I love is about businesses buying from each other, small businesses buying from each other. I talk about that all the time. I have been about that since I've been in my late 20s and started my first company. I think that is ideal. I want to talk about the big pink elephant in the room that I hear all the time that I don't believe is true, Kay, and I want your opinion on it. I hear people say they can't because they got to buy from the big corporations to get the cheapest price, to offer the cheapest prices. So they got to buy in bulk and it's too expensive to buy local. And I'm telling you, this is okay, Lori's opinion, and blah, 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 blah. I don't think that's true. I think they're missing out on opportunity. I think customers will pay more for things that are very unique and customized, but I'm just a speaker. You're the living example. Can you comment on that?
I think I see both sides of it. As a business owner, it's like we have to watch cost, especially in food. We get Yelp reviews all the time that everything that we have is so expensive. But we're in Old Town and support local where we can. There are certain things that we don't source locally, and we do that on purpose for a few different reasons. But I think when it comes to what we can source, we really focus on spending that extra money for honestly the best bread, right? I always say that community creates retention, retention creates revenue, and revenue creates generational impact. And if you really focus on like taking care and using and sourcing locally, and you're focusing on your community, it will create the money that you need in order to sustain it. And I think that's ultimately what the goal is for every business is sustainability. And so what I always tell people is you don't have to source everything locally, right? Source what you can. And your KPI doesn't have to be 85%. That's actually really high. And when we started, the goal was 70%. But over time, we've been able to slowly move that needle a little bit as we grow to source as much as we possibly can locally. And it makes a difference. And also, when you're doing that, so some of our fruit, some of our farmers, it actually is cheaper for me to go directly to a farmer and source,
Mhm.
and it's better quality than me going to the grocery store. With that being said, it doesn't mean that we don't buy stuff from the grocery store, from Cisco's or from Restaurant Depot or from we have 100 other vendors, actually. There are so many of them, I can't even remember at this point. But the goal is to do as much as we possibly can locally.
And you know what I love about your mindset, and I pick up on it all the time, and I don't think there's enough of this, and that is, I'm going to say, the flexibility in thought and deciding based on the current situation. So what I mean by that, like you said, okay, this is our goal, but we do when it makes sense, and we have to watch cost, but then we come over here and you take each situation and go, what makes sense for this specific situation? I see people pigeon toe themselves into a decision and then go down that pathway to apply to everything within that situation and everything outside that situation without thinking if the new subject matter needs rethinking. Now, I know I probably sound like I didn't say anything in that because I rambled with a lot of words, but I think it is really looking at each specific situation and saying what makes sense for both retention, customers, staying true to who I am, and as you mentioned, my favorite word so much, profitability. I love that way that you combine the what is a good decision and what's profitability. I want to go there next. You've mentioned other favorite words of mine, processes, systems, profitability. You've mentioned all these favorite words. I also talk a lot about the fact that personal opinion again, but I believe that can I just call it the newer generation of entrepreneurs? I'm old, I get to do that, right? They haven't had the experience maybe in a corporation to see how important processes are. And so they're jumping into it with this belief like all they have to do is sell a few things online and infrastructure, if I can call that, doesn't matter. It's like when I talk to them, I go, but you need infrastructure and you need a customer service person and you need to pay. I'm pointing behind me. They're like, oh no, all I have to do is sit in my house and do this. It's like I can't even say that they're being ignorant of it. It doesn't even exist in their knowledge base. And so they find what I'm saying is foreign. But at the end of the day, I think what will determine your success is actually your processes. I think that is going to determine your profitability too. And you've been key on that. Can you talk to us about just anywhere you want to go with processes, anything you do, how you look at it, why they're important, what you do to look at profitability? Just take the stage, Kay, and run with it.
I mean, processes are the most important thing in order to scale, right? So if you don't have profit processes, you can't scale because you need consistency in order to create retention, right? And so I think it's I wouldn't say it's the newer generation. I would say it's like the COVID generation of business owners, if that makes sense. I
Okay, yeah.
think that during COVID, we all sat behind computers. We used social media in order to grow businesses, and it was easy to do things from home, and we didn't really need as much. But then everybody can bring in the first six figures, right? But when you start to scale to that seven-figure business or that multi seven-figure business, right? Or even billion-dollar business, you need processes. And so one of the things, and we started to feel this pain like when we hit like our $500,000 mark. We knew that like I needed to hire people. And in order to hire people and for them to be able to do what I can do, we had to have systems. We needed to have processes. So every single time something goes wrong now, the first thing that I say is, do we have a process in place so it doesn't go wrong? And if not, let's build one. And this is where we actually use AI in order to build those processes. And so I hear that I don't have enough time to create systems. I don't have like I don't know how to do it. That's okay. We have Claude, we have ChatGPT. You turn on the little button where you can record and you literally walk them through, tell them, create an SOP for me for X, Y, and Z, and they'll create it. And then what we do now for our whole entire team, we've taught our whole team that. So if something goes wrong, create an SOP. From that SOP, print it out. Let's start going through it as you're doing it and fill in the gaps. And that's what we started to do in order to create SOPs. And now we have them for all of our recipes. We have them for all of our opening and closing procedures. We have them for how we send out our newsletter. We have them for even like my email, like when it needs to be cleaned out, I have an SOP for it. We have it for calendaring. We have it for everything. And like literally almost everything in life, I'm like, I want an SOP on it. Even my kids know what SOPs are. Uh, so like, what is it? What does morning routine look like? That's an SOP in itself, right? And so I think that a lot of people don't know what processes are, but you already create them. You already have them happening in your everyday life. The only difference is documenting it, right?
Yeah.
Documenting it, taking pictures of it, when you can do videos of it. It has been game changing. Like once we made it to $1 million business, I knew that I wanted to scale more. Like, how do you do that? And it was making sure we had a process for everything. And it's a really easy to do. And I know we can't do it. We just don't have enough time. Like I know that I've been there. I've been that person. I'm a recovering I don't have enough time person. But I think it's like when you just do that, do 2 to 3 a day to start, it'll change everything. And it's the stuff that's bottlenecking you. So what can you delegate to somebody else? Create an SOP for it, give it to somebody. They're not going to do it right the first time. As you're working through the process with them, change the SOP so it's clearer and clearer and clearer and clearer. And then there's going to be things where you have new people come in, you hand them the SOP, and they're good. We just had this at the cafe. We had a new kitchen manager coming in because our kitchen manager is moving to our new location, and it's his second day. And I am like, this is crazy. He's so good. And part of that is he's good, but also we have systems. And so it makes it so much easier.
Yeah, you are so dead on. So, a couple comments on that. I did a lot of turnaround in my day coming in as the CFO in the turnaround and had a lot of success. And so, people always thought it was financially based, like that's why I was able to succeed. But we couldn't get any money or loans. That's why I was in. They were in a crisis, right? It was literally putting in SOPs. The company I typically would get called into was between 1 million and 5 million. Many of them have grown with kind of just sketchy SOPs where a few people were handling things because they did it forever, but then everybody was doing their own thing. And when they hired somebody in, it just became more and more of a mess. I would just do the AI thing then. I would like sit and interview each person. So who do you communicate? What do you do? Then type it up. Then we would exactly. And so AI is so effective when it's used to help organize your thoughts and get you to that whole stage of gathering and getting it together all at once. And I agree on SOPs on everything. I know, like even for my company with just me, I have an SOP on my ebooks, how to upload it, because I may forget how to do it. And then I come back and I can read my own SOPs to keep everything in line. And I have always said that I felt as though SOPs, processes, and systems were what allowed people to get over that hump past 1 million, because you can kind of get up to 1 million if you're lucky and you have a simple business model. Without them, you can't get beyond it. You cannot grow to the next level. You just start really backtracking. And the awful thing, okay, that I seen a lot is people got away without it, and then they got this big growth opportunity, but they couldn't take it on because they had to literally backtrack to catch up, and then they miss the opportunity. That's why I say, hey, you're just yourself, solopreneur working in your house, get SOPs. It's easier to put them in day one and grow. So I love what you said. That is absolutely beautiful. Okay, you mentioned you hired someone, and SOPs or you've hired a lot of people, but I should say in mentioning hiring somebody, SOPs are crucial to get them started. But there's a lot of words and wisdom in hiring people, all the way from making sure you're legally sound with HR requirements that are in place, to understanding the financial component, to making sure that you have the right person. I could go on and on. Kay, share our wisdom to those in the audience who either have already hired or have not yet, because I know you've learned a lot. Cafes and stuff, that's a hard hiring position. Anything restaurant oriented is a harder one as well. So you're coming into the hardest and excelling at it. Give us some words of wisdom.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things when it comes to hiring that we focus on. My number one thing is, and everybody always says, like, I hear this all the time, like, our clients are our number one priority. My number one priority is my team. And once my team is taken care of, their job is to make sure that our clients are taken
I
care of.
love that.
And I've always I've always wanted to be that like employer. And so the number one thing that we make sure is that nobody leaves our space making less than $30 an hour. So that makes a huge difference. So that's base plus tips, right?
Yeah.
And so the goal with that is one, I have to make sure that business is continuously coming in.
Yep.
Um, but two, we also have to hire the right people. And that may mean that most of my employees make more money than I do. And that is okay today. One day we'll figure it out and maybe everything will work out differently. Um, but I think that has always been my number one goal is if they are secure and they are taken care of, then they can come into work and be light and make sure that other people are taken care of. When they're not secure, we can't do that. And so we have a very low turnover. We have incredible retention with our team. I think the longest employee we've had has been with me for 5.5 years. But since we just hired a whole bunch of people because we're opening a new space, um, everybody, we have about people that have been with us for over 3 years, about 10 of them. And we had a team of 12 before then. So we only had like two or three new people. And so the number one thing is we focus on wellness. So we do a wellness activity every 6 months. On our 90 days to opening, you can see our last one that we did with our whole entire team, and there's like 37 like employees now, which is
Wow,
insane.
I cannot believe this. From
Um,
Sadie said 2 years ago. I'm just Kay. I'm blown away, and I know Annie's out there. Annie, thank you so much for telling me to get Kay back on the show. Kay, I'm just blown away. Like, hasn't it been 10 years since we spoke? No way did you do all this in 2 years. I'm just blown away.
It's beautiful. And I think like the number one thing is like when our team, and I tell my team this all the time, when if you see somebody who comes in and they're not feeling great, what can we do to make them feel great? And I think it starts at the top, right? And so a couple days ago, one of the girls came into work. We could tell that she wasn't in a good mood. She walked in, she was upset, and one of the other girls made her favorite coffee. And it just switched the way that all of those other stresses are still there, but that coffee made like a huge difference. Well, the goal is if our team's doing that to each other, then they're also going to do that to guests. And if you like nobody, we work more than anything else. Nobody wants to go to work and not enjoy it. And so it's been really important for us to really put our team first. And how do we do that? And what does that look like? And that comes down to security. So being emotionally secure, financially secure, physically secure, those are things that are really important to us. And when it comes to hiring, the goal is to like put the ego aside, right? Is this person not only going to be a good, like, are they skilled, but are they a good fit? Do you think they're going to get along with the people that they work with? If not, then they're probably not going to be a good hire. And when things don't work out, we have people that'll come in and they'll maybe be there. We do working interviews, which are paid. And sometimes when people come in, it's not a good fit. And so we, thank them and let them like move on and find a better place that is a good fit. And we hire very slowly, very slowly. So our hiring process is about a month, which is crazy, but it makes it so we have longer retention. And every new employee that you get costs a lot of money, right? So if you're spending $30,000 every time you hire somebody new and you're in a restaurant where turnover is like a new person every single month, at the end of the year, if you look at how much that costs you, that's insane. So let's just not do that, and just hire slow, um, and make sure that everybody is taken care of along the way.
I love what you said about hire slow. And I always say in a small company, it's even more costly because it usually involves the higher ups to do the training. So that means they're being taken away from other things they need to do. That was one thing I also did in these turnarounds. And I would note that an understaffed, or I mean, an underfunded is what I meant, an underfunded company with a good staff is more powerful and can succeed than a company with full funds and not a good staff. It makes all the difference in the world. And I would actually go through the same thing where I would have somebody come in and work, and I would have the other employees just kind of give me feedback. And I felt as though once you create that sacred team, you have to protect it. You have to make sure somebody doesn't come in, not carry their weight, and it creates resentment. And then they start to not trust you to make good decisions on their behalf. Do you find that as well? You've got to really keep your team then sacred, and you got to make sure that you got their back.
Yeah, my number one thing is protecting my team, right? So
Yeah.
my team is first in everything, whether it's protecting them from um like clients, because sometimes clients come in and they're a little demanding.
Yeah.
I actually just did a post about this like yesterday, um, about how sometimes people come in and they demand things because they know me or because they feel like they're owed something I don't know. And
Right.
so the number one thing is like we built this beautiful space for all of these beautiful employees. How do we make sure that they always feel taken care of? And so that comes in protecting them, but also protecting our space. And so we have values that we expect our team to uphold, but we also expect that of guests that come into our space. So if they're not following those things where they don't have the same values, they can go somewhere else. And that's always been the way that I've kind of led my team is we want to make sure that everybody's taken care of. And if we all are on agreement of this is what it is, then we not only expect our team to show up that way, I have to show up that way, all of our vendors have to show up that way, but our guests also have to show up that way as well.
Okay, absolutely love that. So I can't go without unpacking that. Once again, brilliant and so much wisdom. There was this movement, let's call it just a movement. And remember, I'm old, so this was a movement a long time ago, where if suddenly was the customer is always right and always value the customer. And at the time, it made sense, Kay. At the time, it kind of did because it wasn't necessarily that way, right? And I'm talking about 20, 30 years ago. I'm not talking about just yesterday, right? But I don't think that is valid anymore because the customers may not always behave in a way that's even proper. I see so many entrepreneurs so afraid of offending a customer, turning a customer away, that they will not only, let them do, let's just say anything, but also buy at prices that are not profitable. They end up allowing the customers to harm them because they are afraid of upsetting them, afraid of that. And here you are so poetically with great wisdom saying that customers also have to live up to a standard, and that is just beautiful, and it obviously shows that it succeeded in the fact that you got the customers, you've got the staff. So I just couldn't go without pointing that out because I know I keep saying this to you, especially during this call. Where'd you get all this wisdom? It's just phenomenal that you have so much together in so many areas. Before we leave on the employees, one of the things, especially, I don't know if you ever spoke with Zamara, which I just love at Pasadena SBDC, she keeps up on all the HR laws. And, they're daunting. They really are. And I think that it shouldn't stop you, but can I just say there has to be a seriousness level to understanding what the HR laws and abiding by them are. How do you go about staying up on things? How do you approach that? Because with that many employees, you are hitting those levels where you are impacted by a lot of the laws. Can you just take a few minutes to talk about the procedures and systems and what you have to be aware of regarding HR law?
Yeah, I think the number one thing is being proactive. So for me, I actually was going to school to be an employment attorney. So I worked at Littler Mendelson, which is one of the best law firms for businesses, for employment law. And I worked there for a couple of years before I started my business. So there are a lot of things that I already knew and I had in place. But we are getting to that point. So once you hit that 25-person level, you start to grow. Once we hit that 50-person level, then things completely change, right? And so there are a couple things that we've done in order to make sure that our team is protected and also us, but being proactive about certain things. So, a good example is like sexual harassment trainings. We don't have to do those technically because of the way that our entities are set up. However, we do because we want people to feel safe and taken care of. Um, when it comes to different things, we work with our payroll provider to make sure that they know where we're at so they can let us know what's going on. I think a payroll provider is one of the best things that you can do as far as getting you the help that you need and making sure that you're staying compliant, and making sure that everybody's taken care of because there are so many ways, especially in California, where we really are an employer state. Um, and are not an employer state, but
I know
the
what you meant. Yeah,
employee, like
yeah,
the
very much
employee
so.
state.
Yeah.
So you really have to make sure that you take care of your employees because they have a lot of rights here compared to other states, which I love, but it's a lot to keep up on. And so making sure that you're working with your payroll company to just stay up to date on all of those things is important. And then when you get to a certain point, it does make sense to have an attorney on retention. And that has helped us in so many instances, not with employee issues, but just in general, having a business
Yeah.
attorney when it comes to leases and
Yeah.
contracts and things like that, having somebody to bounce that off of is incredibly helpful. And although it's costly, it saves so much money in the long run.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. So talk to us about the new space. Is it going to be different from the existing one? What brought about the expansion into the new space? Walk us through that.
Yeah, so the new space is actually really special. When I was 7, I actually went to dinner at this place with my grandma, and I told my grandma at dinner, one day I'm going to own this restaurant. And she was like, okay,
You're
girl.
kidding
Like,
me. Yeah, you're
um,
kidding me. Oh my God.
we're really excited to have the opportunity to get this location. It was not the best time. But is there ever a good time? I feel like businesses are like babies. They come and you figure it out, right? Um, and so the new space is actually a full service restaurant. And so you have the cafe, which is 9 to 3. This space is basically 3 to 9. And
Okay.
it's called Neighbors and Friends Kitchen. We always say that Neighbors and Friends Cafe is where neighbors become friends. And we say Neighbors and Friends Kitchen is where friends become family. And you really
Oh,
invite them in,
cool.
and we have dinner service. So the way that we're actually structuring it is like dinner service and bar. We'll have some cooking classes there. But one of the number one things that we learned about the cafe is your space needs to be used at all points in time, uh,
Yes.
especially in California because
Yeah, I was going to say
it's
with the real
so
estate price, you've got to. Yes.
it's so expensive. And so when we brought in our chef actually had a pop-up called Sal Pass Smash, and they'll be doing that pop-up out of the front patio. And it will not be a pop-up. It's now like a permanent fixture in our space. And we're so excited that they get a permanent home. But now we have a chef that not only runs that, but also runs our kitchen. So we talked about it a little bit earlier, but it's kind of like the bear. You got the beef out of the front, the fanciness in the back. And so you have burgers out the front and you have a little bit higher end dining in the back. And we are doing the same thing where we're trying to source as many products from our neighbors and friends as possible. A little bit more stuff will be done in house because it is a full service restaurant. And so that's super exciting. And the goal is to open in 9 days for family and friends, and then our grand opening to be hopefully the first week of June, working on some last minute health permit stuff, which is always fun. They always have a few corrections that we need, and these corrections are like $20,000. So we're
Yeah.
trying to
Yeah.
move things around and work with the health department on when we can do those things, and we're really excited to be open soon.
I don't know how you manage it all and your family. It's just amazing. And how many kids you have, I don't recall.
I have two. I have a 6-year-old and a 9-year-old who are heavily involved. They are there all the time. The nice thing about the new location is it is a block from my house and about 5 blocks from their school. So, and in between there and home and school and all that is their soccer and baseball field. So, it makes it really convenient to kind of do all of the things we need to. And we have an incredible community who it's like my son is about to turn 10, so he wants to walk home on his own sometimes. And it's only a block, but I text different people like, we're giving Mikhail a little bit of independence. Can you look out your window? Do you see him? As he's like walking from the park to like the restaurant, which is a block away. But everybody just kind of watching and making sure everybody's taken care of has been incredible. So.
That's beautiful. I see in, 10, 20 years, your kids. Well, when I was younger, mom was, and continuing the story, just like you have with your great grandmother, your grandmother, your mom, and now you. I think that you're going to hear your kids at some day talk about what they learned as a kid and where they take it. I think it's just beautiful. Kay, my ending statements is when I think of you and I see you. You ready for this? You're going to find this funny, but this is the vision I get. I see you at this big table with this puzzle, and you take each piece of the puzzle and you turn it so many different ways until you spend the time to perfectly figure out how that piece of puzzle fits into the next. And because you spend so much time really focusing it on it and selecting it, from make sure we use the real estate for the most amount of time, let's go into the community, let's make sure that the employees are feel cared for, let's make sure the guests have values too. I mean, you just focus on everything, down then to make sure I have a financial mentor, make sure I work with the best type of lenders, make sure I have somebody in marketing and HR. It's no surprise that you have success, because you are really paying attention to all the crucial details. Then you throw in your wonderful personality and the way you see the world, and that's your meteoric rise. That's where it's coming from. I just think you're phenomenal as a business person and a wonderful representative of the business community, as well as how to be a person, a mom, a boss, all those things, Kay. And I'm just really fortunate to have you back on the show. So, any last words that you would like to share with the audience?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to say I didn't start that way, right? And so I think when I first started, it was very much and me, right? And I think that if it wasn't for programs like the SBDC or the WBC, I wouldn't have been able to get to the point that I am now. Especially when it comes to like having mentorship and getting in the right places and in front of the right people in order to really grow. And I think really using those resources is like so key to like the growth that I've experienced. And so I really like anytime I talk to somebody, they're like, what do I need? I'm like, you have to go to the SBDC. You have to start asking people questions. You have to really start growing your business. And I think that's really important for everybody as they're starting their journey, is to use those free resources to their advantage in order to grow.
I know it's only been 2 years, but even just talking with you as I just have, it's like I'm talking to a totally different new Kay, new and improved Kay. It's like your understanding, your calmness, your confidence has been just phenomenal. I'm like going, you sure this was the same Kay? You sure this wasn't 10 years? So just, big, big kudos to you. So with that, we're out of time. I'm going to bring Sadie back in to say goodbye. Sadie, wasn't that just amazing? Look at, I'm speechless. I'm kind of like absorbed in this interview as much as I could be while still being the person asking the questions. Wasn't that phenomenal?
It was a warm hug, is the only way I can describe it. It was a business warm hug.
It was. Okay, guys, Sadie is going to stay longer so you can get all the information out of the chat. Please do follow Kay on Instagram. Watch the 90 days. Go visit the restaurant. Listen to this again and again, because, man, and Kay, by the way, I don't mean to put one more thing on you, but of course, you're going to be an international motivational business speaker and have a book. Okay. So I just wanted to throw that out to you so you know that that's coming in your future as well. Seriously, Kay, thank you so much for being back on the show. I'm going to invite you back on because it's too exciting to be in the backseat watching everything that you're doing. Just great success. I have to say goodbye to everybody. So if you're a frequent flyer, as I see all your names here in the chat, thank you again for being here for our weekly Small Biz Talk. And if you're new, this is a wonderful channel to learn a lot and hear great stories. So please tune back into next week, Small Biz Talk, with your host, Lori Williams. Bye, Kay. Bye, Sadie. I'll see everybody next week. Bye-bye.
Bye. All righty, guys. That was fabulous. I'm not even gonna kid you, right? That was a amazing way to launch into our Wednesdays and just all the warm fuzzies. Okay, so we got a survey going. I got links going for you in the chat. Let me know if you need me to drop down anything for you. I'm just gonna do a little redrop just to make sure that I have everything at your disposal because we love the chat and I just want to put things right back in there for you. So I'm putting all of Kay's information, the restaurant IG, cafe, past shows, her website is there. If you're not yet a client of the SBDC, hey, I'm not saying a case said you gotta be a client. The no-cost services, and we are just basically here to help you. And of course, let me do some little past shows and how to get in touch with Lori. Okay, so I'm gonna put myself on mute, but if you need anything, let me know. I'm gonna be taking a little pop in on the chat, so let me know. I'm going on mute.